We are Mike and Jeannie, and we restore old houses. In 2021, we moved to South Carolina and bought a 120-year-old Victorian house. Follow along as we put the polish back on this Victorian masterpiece.
Welcome back to 1834 Restoration House.
Hey guys, thank you so much for stopping by. If you're joining us for the first time, we bought this house back in July of last year, and we've been doing restoration on it ever since. And one of the things that we've been having trouble with is this bedroom here. We pulled off the wallpaper. Under there we found cracked plaster, we found plaster that had been painted and chipped, and it was in really rough condition. So we've been setting about trying to restore the plaster in this room using new plaster on top of the old plaster, rather than tearing it all out, and it's caused us some problems. Now, last week, we were getting ready to put the top coat finish on here, and as we were preparing the wall, all of the plaster that we had put on previously started literally coming off in sheets. And so we ended up having to scrape that all back off, and then we used a proper bonding agent. We'll talk about that in a minute. That proper bonding agent underneath, and then we went ahead and top coated over this with a base coat. So today, we're going back over it with a bonding agent again, and we'll put a nice top coat on here. Now, I'd like to show you what a proper top coat looks like. This plaster here is about 3 days old, and it consists of the original plaster, followed by a base coat, and then 2 coats of top coat, or skim coat. And this is a pure lime gypsum plaster that we put on here. And just look how smooth that is. It's like glass. I can't stop touching it. Every time I come in here, I've got to touch it because it's so smooth. But that's what it looks like. And we're going to do the same thing over here on this wall, and it's going to look great. One of the things that we learned is that new plaster won't stick to old plaster very well because it's chemically dead. New plaster is very chemically reactive, and it needs to get into something that's also chemically reactive. And so the solution there is bonding agent. The other reason we use bonding agent is because of suction. Suction is where the moisture in the new plaster literally gets sucked out by the substrate underneath it. And that would totally happen if we tried to apply it to this. And if you suck the water out of the plaster, it doesn't have a chance to set up and get hard. So we want that water to stay in there as long as possible. And that's what the bonding agent does for us. So if we had applied top coat plaster on top of this base coat immediately, like within hours, it would have been okay. But since we waited a couple of days, we're putting the bonding agent on there just to make sure that our new plaster will adhere to it properly. I'm not really big on endorsing products, but this stuff here is the gold standard in bonding agent for plaster. There is really nothing else out there that gets the job done. Believe me, we've tried the others and they don't work. Well, doesn't that look like the worst paint job ever? It's actually a special kind of glue which is made for plaster work, and it's supposed to look like that. So now it's bonding with plaster below, and it's going to make a sticky surface. We're going to go downstairs now and make us some plaster and get busy. Here's the wall after getting its first coat of skim plaster. You can see the pinkishness there. That's the plaster weld underneath showing through. The reason it looks like that is because I put on a very thin coat. We're going to go back downstairs and mix up another batch of plaster, and then we're going to start laying it on here before it gets too dry.
Mike is polishing the walls now.
Two walls down, two more to go. So here is the wall that's been giving us a lot of trouble lately. It now has base coat and two coats of skim coat, top coat, if you will. And it's looking real good. We went ahead and polished it. Everything's drying up now, and we'll come back tomorrow and we'll take another look at it.
Good morning. It's the next day. We worked it extra hard, and we got a new paddle that should have blended it better. Let's see how well this turned out. We are living and learning as we go. Oh, that is much better. Take a look at that. So by working it, we brought out more of the white, I think. And it blended better. But I think working it a lot more really brought that white out. That's wonderful. Ah, I'm so tickled. We're getting somewhere.
This wall has been our nemesis from the very beginning of this plaster project. It has cracked, it has peeled, it has delaminated, and we know why. It's that concrete bonding agent that we put under there in the first place. We should have never used concrete bonding agent. As soon as we switched to Larson's plaster weld, all of these problems stopped. And so that's what we're going to do today. So we have Cal Coat base coat as a base. We're going to apply Larson's plaster weld all over the entire surface of the wall, get it pinked up, and then we'll come back with USG Diamond top coat over the top of that while it's still tacky. Not dry, not wet, but still tacky. And then, once we're finished with that top coat, we'll come back and we'll lay it on again to add a second layer of top coat, and then we're going to work it down hard and polish it and make it look perfect. This is an important final step. It's called polishing, and it makes the wall nice and smooth. It also helps to seal it and make the plaster stronger as well. At this point, the plaster is nice and hard. It's not completely cured, but it's been on the wall for a couple of hours now, and it's nice and firm. So she's able to spray the wall and get it wet, and then run the trowel at a very, very low angle and push hard. And it's that good hard push that makes the plaster get nice and smooth. All right, a second coat, all polished up nice, looking good. Well, I've got to say, I was really nervous coming up here this morning to see what this wall looked like. And
So was I.
imagine our delight when we came around the corner and saw a white wall that looks like a proper plaster wall. So hopefully the wall that we just did will end up looking like this one. All right, it's the morning after, and the wall that was the problem child is now covered in its final coat of plaster. And it's looking pretty good considering. It's very, very smooth, very smooth. All that polishing really paid off. And there is a little bit of a swishy, swirly look to it, but plaster does that. But the main thing is I don't see any cracking. I don't see any sign of delamination. And I think we may be done with that part. Several days have elapsed since we did any plaster work due to a combination of circumstances, but this wall here has turned out really well. We struggled with this one for a while, The last one that we did is here, and when we last looked at it, it wasn't looking too good, but having some time to mature and cure has actually done it some good. To me, it looks like a Venetian plaster. It just kind of has that cloudy, swirly kind of character to it, which some people find very attractive. This is the last wall, the window wall, and it's given us a lot of trouble just simply because there's so much going on there, and it's really hard to get the big trowels in and get the work done. So we've had to use little trowels, and the last time we did this, the plaster went off before we were done, and so it has a rough texture to it, and it's just not acceptable as a final finish, but that's okay because that was only the first top coat. So today we're going to go back and put on a second top coat. We're using a different kind of plaster this time. It's a different product we've not used before, and we're hoping that this product has more of a working time. The mixture calls for a lot more water in it. And if we can extend that working time to an hour and 15 minutes, that's going to make all the difference in the world about the quality of how this turns out. So we've taped off the corners here and here, and we're going to go ahead and apply the plaster weld now and get this thing started.
Well, it worked, not as well as we'd hoped. It still only lasted about 45 minutes. We still have to wet trowel it, and it required more water, quite a bit more water, and it didn't cover as much. So, as you can see up here, we still have a bit more to go. Woohoo! Mike is finishing the wet troweling. He's polishing it all up, making it all nice and smooth. This room will finally be done with the plaster work anyway. We sure learned a lot.
Yes, we did.
We even got these finished today. Looks pretty good, huh?
Here's a view sighting down along the wall, and you can actually see where the polishing has taken place. This is very much like a Venetian plaster at this point. That was a big, tough job. This whole plastering project was huge, it was stressful, and there's a very steep learning curve with this. Now, if any of you are considering doing this, I have a few takeaways for you that should make things a lot easier, because we made a lot of mistakes. And I boiled those down to a list here of things to do and not to do. So the takeaways are, first of all, do not buy bonding agent from Home Depot or Lowe's. They don't have the right stuff. The only thing that you should use, is Larson's Plaster Weld. You have a 45-minute working time. When that alarm goes off, and you better set an alarm, when that alarm goes off, you need to drop everything. And I mean right now, drop everything, run, don't walk to the hose, and start washing things off outside with your hose. Don't wash it down the drain, or you'll clog your plumbing. Now, we didn't do that, but you do need to get stuff washed. Have good tools, keep them clean. Don't let them get crusty. Work fast. And I mean fast. I mean, you need to hustle because you've only got 45 minutes and you want to do an entire wall. You'd best be moving as fast as you can, and don't sit there and dilly-dally, but just get it on the wall and then work and try to make it better before it dries. But you want to get it on the wall as fast as you can and make sure you don't lose any plaster in your bucket. Always apply base coat plaster underneath top coat. If you have an existing base coat, you can go ahead and plaster weld the thing and then go over the top of that, but don't try plastering top coat over a non-plastered surface. Also, finish an entire wall in one session. And I mean, get it plaster welded, get your base coat on there, and as soon as it's hardened up and ready to go, and I'm talking like within the hour, start on your top coat. Get your top coat on there, get it worked down, Go back over it with a second top coat, and you're going to want to do all this in one day if you want to have a really, really good finish. Wear grungy clothes. Don't wear your best, because you're going to get plaster on it. Also, mask everything. The floor, your trims, anything that you don't want to get plaster on. Make sure you mask those ahead of time. When you have a bag of plaster, it tells you how much water to put in that bag to mix it up. But we never, ever had to use an entire bag, and we certainly didn't have time for an entire bag. So most of the time, we used quarter bags, we used half bags. It really depended on what it is. The base coat, we could do a half bag. The top coat, always a quarter bag. There just simply wasn't time to go through all the plaster otherwise. So that's really important. When adding water, don't add as much water as they tell you to on the bag. They have a range, a low number and a high number. Don't even put in what the low number says. Put in a little less than that. Mix it up good with a good spiral paddle, and then you add your water carefully until you get to the right consistency. It should be like sour cream. Once you achieve that consistency and there's no lumps, stop mixing, because the more you mix, the faster your plaster is going to go off. So the minute that plaster is ready to go, run, don't walk to your work area. Get that alarm turned on and start slathering it on fast. I'm not kidding about this, guys. It is so fast that it'll go off on you, and pretty soon your bucket is full of hard plaster, your tools are encrusted with hard plaster, and you've got half of a wall done. You really got to hustle it. So that's what we've learned about this plastering process, and we can now take a deep breath and figure out what to do with this room next. I'm going to have my camera girl come over now and join me. So if it wasn't for her, it would have been a disaster, because it took the two of us working as fast as we could every single time, day in and day out, just to make this plaster work as well as it did.
Yeah, ideally it would be great to have 3 or 4 people to really get it going good.
Yep.
It was really hard to just 2 of us.
A third person certainly helps. A third person could be doing, washing things and keeping things going behind the scenes and making sure that the plasterers have what they need. So that's a real benefit to have a third person that way. But if you only have 2, that's what you got. If you only have 1, that's what you got.
That's worse.
And you learn to adapt.
I don't know if 1 can do it.
Well,
that's hard.
Well, we've seen them do it. It's possible, but difficult. I think we have an episode here, and I appreciate you guys watching.
Yes.
As we went through this incredibly difficult plastering learning curve together.
But we did it.
We did it.
We got it worked out.
Right. So the next time we do a plaster job, it'll be a cakewalk.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Thank you for watching 1834 Restoration House.